Donizetti, Mayor of Campinas, Sao Paulo, we can highlight from his presentation the important recovery efforts after the 2013 floods and the integration of the community in establishing early warning systems, as well as all of the efforts to make alliances and partnerships with the private sector, and the need to build a network of resilient municipalities. Very well, our next presentation is Mr. Paul Grande, ex-mayor of Cuenca, Ecuador.
Muchas gracias y buenos días a todos, a todas.
Good morning, everyone. Our city, Cuenca, for us to have an idea, is a city which has a full system of rivers crossing the city, a very important system, and we've learned to live with the rivers and the cliffs, and the geography of the rivers and the riverbanks and the risks that they imply for Cuenca and the management that we need to have for that. Just to give you an example, I initiated my mandate in August of 2009, and one of my tasks was to remediate or fight a very important flood that happened in a rural area that is very close to the urban area, and it's San Joaquin. And it's a where we were able to mitigate or reduce impact. And that was one of my first tasks in August of 2009 when our management was just beginning in Cuenca. And then on the 14th of May, I ended my period, and the last few hours have also been dedicated to remediating another flood that took place at another parish, another area, which is due to the nearness to the rivers. And this is more on farming lands in this particular case. So I started my mandate with management, and I ended my period also, my mandate as a manager of floods and because of rain. And so it's a concern that we have. The name of the city is called Santa Ana of the Rivers of Cuenca, and so this forces us to manage nature and to be efficient in order to fight the impacts and remediate, and also how to manage our territories. If you observe the first frame, if we can move on to the first slide. Here we have, this is the Tomebamba River. This actually has become, this is a 50 years old photo. This is the Tomebamba River that crosses the city in Cuenca, and right now all of that area, as we can see, is the modern side of the city. It is, as you can see, it was a forested area, and this bridge would cross the city, historical city, the center, and it's since 1999, Cuenca is it's a national heritage. And this is the river that was broken, but now it has been restored, but it's now a national monument. And it was because of the river that bridge collapsed in several years ago. So as you can see, we've learned to coexist with these rivers, which are beautiful and very rich elements of nature. These are now, we have linear parks here along the riverbanks where people actually live and enjoy the river sides. And this has also forced us to define public policies. I don't want to just go in too much detail, and because some policies establish some constitutional legal frameworks, and this we have to say that since last constitution, we have we have very well defined all the competencies of the different areas of the central government from the point of view of the state, and we have constitutional norms which refer to risk management. We have the norm that mandate that governs the institutions and the financial area, and the municipal ordinances that are local, amongst other the different areas. I'm not going to refer to each one of them or going to deep into the legal areas, because in general terms these are concepts with regard to risk management. Here we have some of the references that have to do with the law of the different bodies and agencies that regulate and which establish the competencies. But within this framework, we need to say that we have conceived of this risk management in Cuenca as a very wide idea. First of all, determining that it's a natural threat. There is a probability that there is a natural phenomenon with enough intensity that will impact and harm us. And these are things that are not controllable or even partially controllable. But in this same management model, we have considered vulnerability. In other words, probability that depending on the intensity of the event and the frailness of the elements, it could be controlled. As a whole, this has enabled us to assume risk in an integral manner and to also manage it from that perspective. And this focus on risk has us with 4 factors. First, identifying and analyzing risk. Second, conceiving of and applying measures for prevention and mitigation, and then financial protection, and then through transferring or retaining risk, and then preparations and actions for after things. Since we have very little time, we're going to go very fast. We've determined 3 axes for this management. One is prospecting, in other words, not generating risk, that is prevention; a corrective measure, that is to reduce vulnerabilities, current material by mitigation; and another reactive management. And so these have several elements, and we can identify some of the threats. And we have implemented strategies in the territory that enables us to, in practice, respond to these nature phenomena. Here we have floods, views of the farming areas, and seismic activity and earthquakes that we haven't had any of these in the last few years. But these are the main threats. I'm just going to show you this really fast. And to show you from the prospective management, some of the policies that we have implemented. For example, we have been able to implement a methodology that has a macro zoning to determine hazards for landslides. And there we can see some other elements and geotechnical characteristics that have to do with the kinds of materials, the geometry of the grades, and evolution of the pressure, usually rain, and so on. So we have a methodology in place, and if you look at this chart, we have the method that we're using based on analyses that are more scientific. And we've had this kind of zoning. So this is a rural parish, a rural sector that is in the area of Chayobamba, which is a suburb. And we have a zoning where we have identified the most vulnerable areas. Let me show you this, which is the map of the whole canton, where areas that are subject to risk that have been identified are already there, and at that point, in those areas, there is no construction allowed, and in some other areas, you cannot build. And so, in general terms, I don't want to take more time, but there are policies as far as prospective management and planning and risk management and everything that is related to floods. And prevention is essentially in the management of territories. To finish, as a reflection, general reflection, this is one of the most important issues that the local governments have to approach. And in my case, for instance, I began my mandate with a flood and management, and the same thing, I ended my period. In the case of Ecuador and in the case of in Cuenca, we have actually learned to coexist with these natural disasters, and to feel at home in these kinds of situations and turn them into opportunities. And I will favor some questions and answers. The former mayor of Cuenca has just spoken to us.